Kelin G.
What's up,
How are
Joe?
you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
You got a topic before I get into my stuff?
No, you seem like you're ready. You seem ready to go. I'm just waiting for it.
It's one of my favorite topics, and so I have like the top three, the legs of the stool of all things that cause discontent with people. People get so angry at me. These three topics.
Okay.
So the first one is like responsibility for your own health, and taking all of your ailments and attributing it to your choices. Right, that pisses people off pretty good.
Yeah.
The drugs and dependence on them, how eager and much you will fight to take your pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is the federal government is calling work from home workers that they must come to the office. And this one pisses people off the most. Even people,
Touchy.
even people who are fairly reasonable, this one is a little bit, it's a little radioactive. It really causes a little bit of disturbance. So first, I want you to take a first crack at it. And do you believe work from home, and you can go back into COVID when it was necessary, but do you think it should be something that human beings can handle to work from home without authority, without somebody looking over your shoulder, and still give good value to whomever is paying you?
Do I think it should be, or do I think it is?
Do you think human beings are responsible enough to handle such a thing?
Some.
Okay.
Not many.
Not many. Okay. All right.
I
That's
would not
honest.
say the norm.
No, that's honest. And I want you to devil's advocate me this whole conversation, because there's really only one argument that I ever listen to. The rest of them are just horseshit.
Okay.
Because if you judge this whole thing based on you as a consumer, what you would tolerate when you are writing the check versus what an employer would be when they're writing the check, right? How much would you trust, and how good of a relationship do you have with getting good value? Okay. Mm-hmm. So, I believe that, work from home, there are some select few who nail it, right? Mm-hmm. They work harder, you get better effectiveness, they save some money, and they value doing it, so they reward and give so much more value back to their employers. That's the select few. Mm-hmm. But if it's part of a culture, then you're going to have the 80% rule take effect, right? And 80% of the people are not going to know how to, just have a good relationship with the freedoms.
Yeah.
And they're going to take advantage of it, and they're not going to give good value because they don't have it in their head, especially union mentalities and, these people. They're trying to get what they can get, not trying to give and make sure that they give good value to whoever's compensating them, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, let's do some exercises here.
Okay.
All right, so let's just say there's a car wash, and it's going to charge you $10 every time you run through, right? Uh-huh. Or you can pay for the year, and it's $70, and you can run as many times through as you want, right? Mm-hmm. So simple math, where would you start getting a good value? As a consumer, $70, $10 for one, $70, as many as you want.
Yeah, so I mean, if you know you're going to do more than 7, by all means.
Okay, you start getting a better value at the 7 car wash mark, or else you would have just been better paying as you need it, then you weren't forced into doing it on a timeline and whatever, right? So we have a good relationship with value. We know what the hell it is. And we know as consumers what we would never. What if you went into a store and there were no price tags? The person at the register, right, would judge what the price was going to be when you went up there. Do you think that is a good system?
No.
Why?
Because there's nothing to go off of. It's like, well, what is it that you're basing this price on? And can someone else get a different price? And if so, how do I get that price if I don't like the one you're giving me?
Okay, so great relationship with value. So let's just say you had a person working an 8-hour shift, okay? Mm-hmm. And in the first hour, they gave you good value, right? Where you can measure it and say, holy shit, I got more than I bargained for.
Yeah.
The second hour, you paid the same amount for the first hour, but they stopped at the water cooler. Maybe they ate something. Maybe they took a dump, So for that hour, you're like, what did I get for that freaking hour?
Yeah.
And as a consumer, you're like, I don't want that freaking hour at all because it was garbage. Look what I paid for and look what I freaking got. As a consumer, you would be pissed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If I'm paying for something, I better get something in return.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's where the value mechanism comes when we work this whole like 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. Like the car industry is brilliant, right? So they have a bunch of people that have a desk. Somebody walks in, they sell them a car. They don't sell a car. Let's just say they sit back and they prop up their feet and they drink coffee for 6 hours and they do shit. What does it cost the car dealership? 0, because it was based on a production value. And if you sell cars, you make money. If you jack off, like you get freaking nothing.
Yeah.
But in an office environment, you jack off and you still get paid. So there's no incentive for you to not jack off. So if you take the office environment and you put pressures on it where you have a manager to be able to oversee what you're doing, then they could put pressure on you to get some stuff done. When you're at home, who's the office manager? Are there distractions at home?
Yes.
What if you got paid for an 8-hour day and really gave only 44 minutes worth of real work when you were there?
And I've even heard of people that have a manager that can watch virtually. I knew somebody that said their company sees the mouse moving.
Yes.
Maybe not exactly what you're doing, but they are able
There's
to
activity.
see a mouse moving in activity.
Yeah.
And all they learn to do is develop a system to make sure they bump the mouse.
That's right,
every
because
so
that's
often.
human beings. Like that's the first acknowledgement that once you know the rules, right? It's not your mindset is not how can I give the best value, which in a merit-based capitalist economy, giving good value in exchange for another thing means that we want to keep doing business together. If I give you $40 worth of value and you give me, $50 worth of returns, I'm going to want to do that all day because I got more than I paid. And then I'm like, oh, well, I got a $10 deal. Let me try to give back even more to you. And this back and forth of people giving more value means that capitalist economies work really well. When it's a slide down to seeing what you can get away with, like faking out the mouse movement so you get paid for not doing work, that's when I feel what human beings are good at doing is just trying to extract value from people without giving up value in return. And that's what the work from home movement tempted into the workplace. For every 1 or 2 people that give better value than even if they were at the workplace, there are 80% of them that freaking do not. And good.
Yeah, and I don't even know if for sure, in my opinion, it's most likely the worker not putting the value in. But I've even seen friends that have work from home jobs that they are more than capable of doing it from home. Everything they need can be in their home. They don't even have their family home for distractions. They literally are there alone.
Exactly.
But they have said to me, people will come to their door, solicitors, delivery people, neighbors that see their home and don't take a work from home job to be as serious as a in-office job. They'll just come by and they'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm working. Oh yeah, but this will only take a minute of your time. And they're like, I'm at work right now, and your distractions don't see that.
And those people are integrity people. They are actually fighting back because they know they're responsible to the task they're doing. Those are the 20%. So I don't even listen to those sightings, right? Because it's the minority of people. I'm looking at how do you keep control of a workforce. And here, okay, so let's look at work products. So car dealership's easy. You sell a thing, and when it sells, then you have a commission guy that makes money on the sale. What if you have, and we learned this during COVID, what if you have a company that has a subscription service where all of their customers pay per month, and they don't really pay attention to what they get during that month? So if you decided to just not do anything for it, they still collect a paycheck, and they don't have to care. Then it's like, oh, dude, I don't have to do shit, and the money still came in. This is a good freaking deal. I noticed that during COVID, there was a couple of companies that were on that where they collected their monthly fee. They shut their doors for months, never had to do freaking work, and they all still got paid. And I'm thinking, Well, that must be a work product that's really hard to measure if you can still get paid and you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, nobody knows that you didn't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if your industry is that, right, AI is going to fuck you one day. I will tell you, because it will be able to tell. What if, okay, so I'm going to put a necklace around you with a little pendant, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's basically going to judge whether or not you're doing work product or not. And it's going to only calculate what you get paid based on what the pendant says you were actually doing. Now, this is unthwartable, so you can't do a little mouse macro to trick my system.
Yeah.
It knows, right?
Yeah.
Now it's merit-based. And if you only want to work 10 minutes, who cares, right? You're not like trying to get without giving. You're not trying to take something that you're ill-deserved. Like, do you think everybody's like, you know what? I'm going to go clock out to go to the water cooler. Right? Nobody does that. They're just like, I'm going to shit and smoke and water cooler it, and somebody's going to pay me, and I'm even going to go brag about it that I got one over on the freaking man, right? All right, so back to government workers, and, a lot of them are obviously going to take a lesser salary job so they can still stay at home, all right? Because government...
Wow.
So okay. So what you know about federal workers, and let's do broad brush here just to piss the most amount of people off.
Yeah.
What the fuck do they do? Like, what is their work product? If you were to measure what they do, like, what is their goal? If you have somebody that has a desk and they're a government worker, and I wanted to see, you're doing a good job, Billy. What is your job? Like, how would I measure it?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on what it is they're supposed to do. Like, what kind of job is it?
Well, what's the work output of a government job? To spend taxpayer money, period. That's the output. They don't actually do anything. Their job is to take taxpayer money coming in and try to use all of it so they get more money next time and they can justify raises.
Yeah.
They don't really do anything. That aside, there's some government workers that have measurable work output where you can say, I was ICE, right? And I detained 1,000 people. So that divided my salary on the work product, which is I detained 1,000 people, and I know what that ends up costing per detainee, right? It's easy. But a majority of government workers are, I'm given a budget, so I create a staff, and they push papers around all day, and they send emails, and they have meetings, and they justify an existence, and then taxpayers are like, oh, pretty important there. Let's pay them.
Can we involve in this government working thing? Would you include the people that do like worker or unemployment?
Sure.
Don't even get me started on the people
No,
that
bring
work
it.
unemployment.
Bring it.
There's been a couple of times in my life, due to layoffs, COVID was one of them, where I had to file for unemployment. And I saw there the integrity of people.
80-20 rule? 80-20 rule? 20% did it the right way. 80% of it worked the fucking system because they know they could get away with it.
And they don't care. They don't care. They're going to get paid regardless. I think it was the job during COVID. I had to apply. And through months of rigmarole, if I could even get them to get on the phone and not drop the call. Oh, how convenient. You accidentally dropped the call again. I got information back that they put the wrong place of employment on there. They put wrong information, wrong contact information. They basically took my paperwork and did whatever the hell they wanted to. I don't care who you actually work for. I'm just going to write whoever I want. I don't care that you gave me this list of information I required you to have. I'm writing whatever I want. And when your claim is denied, oops.
Sorry for your... And that's the thing. You ever walk into the DMV? Do they greet you with a smiling face and are so nice to you? Or do they order you around and don't give two shits? Why? Because you got to be there. They have authority over you. So we don't play nice when we're in control and we have authority. That is the government. They hold it. Like, you can't tell them no. Their paychecks are free. Their work product is mysterious, right? And they don't have to be nice to you at all. They're not looking to be considerate.
Yeah. It was kind of like that even on a military base. You go to any military base and there are workers there that know I got a job regardless.
That's right.
And you get one that's nice and friendly. Ooh, that is refreshing.
All right, so you have the people who only get paid for the value they put on the scoreboard. And you have those people who you can't even tell me. Like if I said, what do? You can't even tell me because your job is to occupy a space and have a free check that comes in and everything in between. Mm-hmm. So when we take our guns and we look at the future where we want to say, okay, I like that people, collect paychecks so they can support the economy and buy stuff. But if we can take 80% of the inefficiency in how we spend money, then we can get good value. And the private sector versus the public sector. The private sector is what supports the public sector. The private sector adds value by spending capital and creating value on top of that capital. Spending capital, getting value on top of that capital. The government's the opposite, where they take value. Like if you spend $1, you might get like 20 cents on that dollar. So it's like, which would I have? Do you want to buy a CD that reduces by 80% every year, and at the end of the day you gave them $1,000, or at the end of the year you gave them $1,000, and they give you $200 back? That's government as an investment. Calculating the value of what they do versus what they cost, it would be a really interesting spreadsheet to put together, and I bet you my math is pretty accurate.
And I wouldn't even be so annoyed with it if it were, like you had said, devil's advocate. I can absolutely see the upside. I remember I knew someone a long time ago that had just gotten a work from home job, and she was talking about like, I save on gas. I don't have to drive anywhere. And gas now is like not even a worry for me. She saved on car repairs and upkeep of her vehicle. She even, one of the things was she was like, I don't even have to wear makeup because I'm not leaving the house and I'm saving on that stuff. And I said, yeah, this sounds amazing. And all of that is great. If you are that person that is truly working, giving value, and have you ever called a company? Maybe it's a support or somebody that you're calling that you deal with over the phone, and their dog starts barking in the background.
Oh, yeah, happens all the time.
Or their kid is yelling. And I get it. And okay, I get it. Do what you have to do, whatever. But especially during COVID, I remember trying to get things done and having to wait because, hold on, let me let my dog out. Let me situate my kid. Let me do whatever, because they're working from home. And I'm like, why don't you just go somewhere that I don't have to hear this and I could just get done what I'm trying to get done right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Elon is touring the country, and he's finding unoccupied government buildings that used to have people that came to the office. And since everybody's at home, they're paying to have these buildings, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so the building is supposed to be like, and this is the benefit, like just the benefit of saving on getting to work and all of the things that go in childcare and whatever. The benefit of going to an actual office and having meetings with other people, creative teams and planning and walking down the hall. But most of all is enforcing the responsibility to do some kind of fucking work while the meter's running. Now, again, in the future, AI will be running the meter, and if you're not doing shit, then you're off the clock and everything will be right with the world. I'll feel better about it. Mm-hmm. At least if you're going to, like I said, jack off, it's on your own time. But until we get to that point, if we're either doing things that make things less efficient versus more efficient is really good. Even on like I said, the private sector still figures out a way to add value on expenses, even with its own inefficiencies of, workers getting paid to take a dump, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
If they could find a way, because on the private sector, here's what happens. If you got a position that pays $50 an hour and efficiency of the employee is 50%, then they get paid $25 an hour. They think they're getting full rate, but they're only making half rate on productive times, and they're making really no rate or you know what I mean? It's averaged down to their efficiency. So a manager's job is to say, out of an 8-hour day, how much quality time, productive time does this employee put in? And if they're at 25%, they take what that position should pay at 100%, and they just scale it down, and your pay rate matches what your efficiency rate. So then they've figured out the mathematics on being able to set it so that even if you think you're getting something for nothing, you're really freaking not, right? Just like teachers. Teachers are a good example about, being paid to not work during the summer, or taking the rate that you pay a teacher and just spreading it out over 9 months or 12 months rather than 9 months.
Yeah.
Right. And so it feels like you're being paid for nothing. But in reality, if you work, 12 months out of the year, it would be more than what you're being paid right now.
And I always try to think about jobs where you are sort of measured based off of what you're producing, results of certain tasks and work you're doing. We all know there are those jobs that it is like a 9 to 5. Maybe it's a storefront you're in. Maybe it's a bank. Maybe it's something that has these set hours and somebody needs to be there. There could be no one walking in the door, no one calling on the phone, and you're not doing business because there are no customers, but you have to be there. That is one aspect. But I'm talking about, what about positions where it is like, here's this project I'm working on, and when it's done, it's done. End of my time here. You know what I mean? Like, I can remember my dad going to work after I had already left for school in the morning, and he wasn't even dressed yet. And by the time I get home from school, he'd been home for hours. And I'm like, what are your work hours? How are you here? And he's like, I go to work, I do what needs done that day, and I leave. So how do you sort of, I guess, talk about the value of people and what they're putting out and putting value to that, even if they are, not working a full day? Am I making sense?
Yeah, well, I don't think people should work full days. I think they should add up their production value, right? And be paid when they're productive and not when not. It does not take 8 hours a day to get productivity.
Yeah.
If we can figure out, like, we're sophisticated of a society, that we know what parts we gave good value, get full rate on those, and freaking go home already.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, for instance, if you were paying, we'll use another example. If you're paying an attorney a retainer of $500 a month, and a retainer is basically, they just pay attention to you. They don't have to provide anything for you, but if you send them an email or you call them, they're your guy, right? And they will do the work, again, billing in addition to the retainer. So when are you going to do that? When the value of paying $500 a month is more to you, and you opt out when you're like, well, I'm not going to need anything. I don't have any pending litigation. I don't need an attorney. Can I save myself the $500 and make that person not take my calls and not take my emails? I use consumer judgments, how consumers would judge the retail store or the professional services, to know if a consumer would do it, then it's probably good value, because consumers are really good at sniffing out when they're getting hosed. If they give $100 and leave with a loaf of bread, they're going to be displeased. So if an employer's paying for $100 and they're getting a loaf of bread, they're going to be displeased. So if you figure out a way to measure it, so when your example, when the person went to the office, did their thing, and the employer sat through what they did and they added up on the spreadsheet, and they're going to say, what did I make because of that person coming to the office? And what did I have to pay them when they come to the office? If the make is bigger than the cost, then they'll do that deal again. If it's not, if they're like, oh, I paid you $500 and I made $200, I might do that once to see if you're one of those integrity people who are interested in giving me good value. Because even if you gave me $501, right? If I gave you 500 and you gave me 501, it's not a big, return on investment, but it's something. It's better than some of these federal employees who you can't even calculate what the fuck they did. So any cost above 1 or above 0 is too much. And that's why, if you, X is one of my favorite examples. Elon Musk came in and fired 80% of the workforce, and the revenue did not change, right? So 80% of the people were unnecessary. They didn't
Yeah.
actually fucking do anything. Sure, they did stuff like, but I cleaned the espresso machine. And he threw away the espresso machine, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck you in your espresso machine, and now all is right with the world. So a lot of the justifications for, federal jobs are they're doing stuff that, they're serving a bureaucracy that's unnecessary anyway. So if you're not there, then the bureaucracy is not served, then we just get rid of the bureaucracy, and now the espresso machine's gone. And now we're like, oh, we could do that without that little bureaucracy, and it didn't have any net value. But the reason people get so mad at me is because those federal workers think that they are absolutely fucking necessary. Do you know how you know if something's necessary? You do away with it for a couple weeks and see if you notice. That's really the only way.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to get rid of you. We're going to give you a 2-week hiatus. And if we're like, holy shit, we can't get this shit done.
We don't know what we're doing.
I'll invite you back. And that's the best way to do federal workers is just dispatch them for a month and see if anybody notices that they're gone. And if whoever notices they're gone, those are the things that we need. And if nobody notices, just make it a permanent dispatching and don't invite you back.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, same with, I guess, if you've got a small business and you're like, here's this person that comes into my shop or my store or my small business or whatever that costs me this much money a month. Could I just do that myself?
100%.
And not pay this person to sit and play on their phone or whatever?
And government is two, it's sort of like two dimensions in this department. Not only is it hard to justify some sort of work product to find out if they're absolutely, necessary, but they get to create the work product that nobody knows what it is, and they just get to live there. Like, nobody questions whether or not something should exist, but then they have to serve the thing that they're able to make exist in spite of nobody really agreeing that it should exist. And I know that's a lot of, gray area there.
Yeah.
But to me, that's what federal government, nowhere in the private sector could we do that, because the money doesn't freely come through the door without anybody noticing or paying attention to it.
How would you feel? This idea just popped into my head, so I'm sort of speaking it before vetting it. But
it's the funnest stuff. I love those.
Yeah. How would you feel about the idea of, you know how like tipping is so big now? Everywhere you go, they ask for a tip. It doesn't matter what the service is. What if pay was based on the feedback of the customers? If you go to a restaurant, you're like, well, I sat here and I watched my server talk the whole time while I'm waiting for my check. My order was wrong, and then they blamed it on the kitchen. Here's my experience, and I absolutely hated it, and I probably won't be back. Does that server still make that same hourly rate? Or are you like, you know what, dude? You just cost me money.
Okay, so I'll give the wiggle the mouse thing. Mm-hmm. Let's just say you put a system in there that if you're rated highly, right, then I'm just going to manipulate the system so I get all rated highlys, right? And then I get a wage. Because people are way clever. Like, all of that creative energy that we used to use fighting bears and building civilizations, now we're kind of get away with shit. And we're trying to push a broom for $75 an hour, right? We're using all of that creative energy into trying to get more for less value. Okay. So you would have, the brilliance of AI is that when you teach a computer to look at it, like, it can profile what it means to try to skirt a system. And if you're a skirter, it weighs your opinion or your feedback less. So let's just say every 5-star review, you're going to get 100% of your tips. Every 4, you're going to get 80. Every 3, you're going to get 60, and so on and so forth, right? So, little server's like, I'm going to try to get all 4 stars, and I'm going to just do what I normally do, but I'm going to go up there and say, hey, I'm really cute, and if you give me a 5-star review, I'll bring you an extra iced tea. Right? There's your extra tips, right?
Yeah.
Skirting the system. But AI is going to look through that and see what it looks to do an authentic version and what it looks like when it's, hacked. When it's you're controlling that shit.
Like manipulated it a bit, yeah.
And so, like, if you wiggle the mouse, like, from a tech standpoint, I know what wiggling the mouse looks like. I know what I'm gonna take a person and I'm going to put a manager over top of them, and I'm going to profile what it looks like to give a full 8 hours, right? And then when you wiggle your mouse, the AI is going to look like and say, huh, the dude who works an 8-hour day doesn't turn their mouse and do a zigzag pattern and do a couple circles. That's not real. And be able to discredit the input, right? Mm-hmm. And so, again, we're creative, but what it takes is those normies, right? Those unsophisticated mouse wigglers. And it moves the technology right above what they are capable of inputting to the AI. And then the AI is judge, jury, and executioner. It will decide whether or not you deserve to be paid or not, and you will serve the AI.
How do you feel about situations like this? A worker is paid 100% off of commission.
Yes.
They sell something, they earn a commission.
Yes.
They do something, they earn a commission. Period. There is no hourly rate. There is no salary. It is you sell it, you make money. You don't, you don't. But they work for a company that, while paying only commission on what is sold, still requires them to come in by a certain time, and they cannot go home until a certain time. Justified, not justified.
Justified, and we use a car dealership thing. So if the company is going to do your marketing, and the company is going to pay your benefits, and the company is going to give you a desk and a computer and a place to
all the tools you need to
then
sell.
We'll negotiate and say, to get that stuff, you're going to have to come in X amount of hours. So your X amount of hours are to pay for all of the support equipment and tools and marketing that goes along with that. And then we won't touch your commissions. That's just all you.
Okay.
And I'm cool with the private sector getting creative and being able to say, all right, let's just say you don't want my computer and you don't want my benefits. You want to be able to walk in there on a Sunday, sell some cars, make your commission. If you make it, cool. If not, I'm cool with that as well. And so, but those models already exist, so that if the private sector wants to, sort of like present it to somebody that's willing to do it, so long that you negotiate. And I think every employee should be negotiated with. I think every person of integrity who can work a stay-at-home should get a stay-at-home because they're giving good value. And as long as we measure it correctly and they're being honest with it, they do for home. But I think 80% of the people who can't do that need to be in a place where you have a nanny, somebody who can pay attention to your work product, set your wages appropriate to your work output, and everything is right in the world. You might be mad about it because if you jacked off for 8 hours and did absolutely nothing, and you look at your paycheck and you're like, hey, why did I get zero? Right? And this is the same reason the health choices. If you eat cheeseburgers every day and you make bad health decisions, you can't look at your health diagnosis and say, hey, how did I get fat and cancer? Right? It's just presenting the material truth to people.
Yeah. And
then giving them a chance to do different things. Oh, if you worked 10 hours instead of 2 hours, you might make more money. Oh, okay. And again, the 80% normies out there, they're not going to accept it because they're looking for the bigger, better deal, the something for nothing deal. Mm-hmm. And those people just need to be managed and kept from themselves. So, as a libertarian, I think freedom equals making your own choices, but also not really having stopgaps between the repercussions of their decisions and not, right? I want you to feel, if you eat a bunch of cheeseburgers, you to be miserable, right?
Yeah,
it's part of the learning process. So you say, oh, I'm fucking miserable. Make the connection with your choices, change your choices, and then not eat cheeseburgers anymore. That's just the math of reality. Now, if I was like, I'm going to, boost you up with a bunch of drugs that offset the downside of eating cheeseburgers. Now, you don't make a connection between the cheeseburgers and your ill health. And now I've kind of robbed you from the freedom of your own choices because I took all the bad side, right? Mm. And I kept them from you. And I only gave you the good side stuff. And now you have a relationship with truth that is really obscure.
I just never understood. I guess I shouldn't say never. I get it. I get that there is some appeal to working from home. Some people are like, oh, I don't have to get ready. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to spend money on gas. That's all great. I don't get why someone would not want to leave their house all day. Like, to me, I would hate it. I can do a work from home temporarily. I can do a work from home on occasion. Hey, something came up, something happened, plans got changed, whatever. We're doing a work from home today on occasion. Not a problem. But to have my home also my workplace feels like that would stress me out. I don't get how people don't want to leave. Like, this is work, this is home. They are separate, and I have a routine, and I get to leave my house and be out among the living in the real world and get sunlight. And I just don't get, if you are not using that time to do other things in your house, and you truly are nose to the grindstone working as though you would be gone in an office somewhere, is that even appealing? Would you find it appealing?
Well, and again, you're going to like this because artificial intelligence are going to profile your personality type and what scenarios you excel at and what you don't. Mm-hmm. Like, we're forcing all personality types into the same, funnel.
Yeah.
And not everybody finds happiness in that funnel. There are people that want to live on the edge. There are people that don't. There are introverts that want to be in their house. There are extroverts that need to be around people. And I point at the college, like, on the hill all the time, because they have complete departments that are dedicated to studying freaking people.
Yeah.
And they piss away that information rather than pushing it out into the marketplace so that people find some happiness and some, congruent to their personality type. They spend all day being soy boys, right? They take soy boys. Like, I use that flippantly all the time because it's almost like this certain type of people get in a position where they can solve the world's problems by the information they can dig out. But they're such activists because they want to find certain information. They take 90% of the useful stuff and they shove it up their ass because they're soy boys. And then you have the rest of the information that is useless to all people except for proving their activist point of view. And then the rest of us are like, oh, good data that came out of that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Useless as shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you hear a lot about, whether it's college, whether it's high school, whatever education level is, are you learning something that is useful, that can be put into action, that could be beneficial, that can make money? How many things do you learn in school that under this?
All right, so let me interrupt you there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because this is sort of like a male-female thing. If we lived in a society was just measured, and they profiled you as a female, mm-hmm. and they basically gave you points for things that you're good at and negative points for things that you're bad at. And they tried to line up, and I'll say the AI is they. Mm-hmm. They tried to line you up with your skill set that was good at. Would you object when it said that you shouldn't be doing certain things? Let's just say
Probably not.
The data, we'll use female cops, okay? Female empathy, smaller frame, right? Mm-hmm. We're not dealing with the exceptions. We're dealing with the mathematical rules. There's going to be good things for female cops and there's going to be bad things for female cops. Mm-hmm. You get a guy that's, doesn't have a lot going on in the brain department, but his physique is intimidating as shit. Mm-hmm. And he holds himself, a certain way. He presents himself a certain way and intimidates the shit out of a perp, right? Not going to run because this dude can freaking squish my skull versus smaller frame, more empathetic, wants to talk, and doesn't intimidate whatsoever. If the algorithm, the AI was like, who do I want to put in this situation? The female, which we all want to say that females can do everything that men can do because, okay, fine. All right. I'm willing to say yes and no. Right. Mm-hmm. But if the AI wants to line up people with their actually measured data with things they're good at versus not, giving good value to the police force and putting you in situations that you need, you would be effective in certain roles and you would be not effective in certain roles. And if the AI didn't give a shit, didn't hate women, wasn't saying this just to be a meanie that wants to oppress, right?
Yeah.
Then you could have faith in it that it's just going to put you in positions for freaking success.
Oh, yeah. My husband was a dog trainer for a number of years. And one of the companies he was working at, when training certain animals, they would need either a man or a woman,
Right.
depending on the dog and the issue. And it wasn't, oh, I'm not a good enough trainer because I'm a man, or I'm not a good enough trainer because I'm a female. No, it's not your skill set. It's the situation and what we're dealing with.
Exactly.
So yes, they would have to sort of profile you into certain situations and jobs and things that you're going to be handling. And if you're not good for it, you're not good for it, regardless.
Okay, so here, let's use nursing, right? Men are not good nurses. 80-20 rule. Men are not good nurses. We're not empathetic. We're not comforting. We're too logical. Not from
no
the
bedside
emotion.
manner.
Right. So it is dominated by women. And then you look up one day and you're like, man, men are just not in the nursing field, whether or not they're not interested in doing it, but they're just not there. And I think maybe we should force some men into nursing just to get an equilibrium between, we need to have some women and maybe 50% men. And is it worthwhile to push something in there that is not naturally occurring? Even if you want it to be. You want men to take more of a foothold in nursing, right? Men have stuff to offer. They can pick people up better and, I don't know, wheel people. Or I don't know what they're good at in nursing, but they might be better at certain things, but they're just not there. So we can't test to see if men are better at it because they're just not interested in it. They'd rather do other things.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the whole idea of, well, do we want to hire them just to sort of get this diversity and get them into the field, or do we want to hire someone that applies, that is still qualified, that is good at what they do, if it's just another woman?
But those people up on the hill at colleges they're so in love, the soy boy in love with an end, right? They're like, I'm an activist, and despite all of the data and the information, I want men to be there. So all of my findings are going to be, let's integrate men because there's a cause in that. There's a good in that. And even if it completely turned to shit, right? Bedside manner goes down, all these hell to pay. They will celebrate that they did the thing that wasn't naturally occurring by force, brute force, right? Because that was their motive, was the end result, not saying, how do I add more value to this?
Yeah, look right? we did, but did it make anything better?
Yeah, if we had 20% men in there so that they can be good at moving people around and things that require logic and strength, and that the women field the stuff that they're naturally good at and add value to. And now when we look at the landscape, we're not judging things based on who we want to be there. We're judging it based on who can fly the plane the safest, fastest, and most efficient. That's the end result is that if our goal is lining up people where they're supposed to be, and we have all of the math and ability to put people where they're supposed to be, why are we not doing that? Why is it that it took Trump, in all of his foibles and all of his whatever, right, decides to take something that like affirmative action and like the DEI, like all the stuff that is doing the stuff that doesn't make sense that we're talking about, and he scraps it and say, let's just make this a meritocracy. Do you think there are people pissed off today that we take? For sure. Yeah.
And I think one of the ways that people get what they want is through wording, through making it sound like it's a no-brainer. We always talk about the don't kick puppies law. I made a law and it's don't kick puppies. Who would argue with that? That's a no-brainer. You shouldn't kick puppies. That's a horrible thing. It doesn't matter what the law actually entails. It may have nothing to do with puppies, and maybe it means you can actually kick them as long as you take your shoe off. Then it's okay. But you don't know that. It's the no kick puppies law, and I'm going to do away with it because I don't think you should kick them even with a shoe off, but now you just did away with the don't kick puppies law.
That is analogous with wiggling the mouse. 100%. So human beings, especially the douchebag ones, right, will wiggle the mouse, justify their existence by putting something in front of you in the public and getting support for something that when You've looked at looked into it. When you look into the details of the quote, it's not what they fucking said, right?
Yep.
And so they are wiggling the freaking mouse. And if you wiggle the mouse, and I know you're wiggling the mouse, I fire you, right?
Yeah.
You're wiggling the mouse. You're not actually doing work. You're pretending to freaking do work.
Yep. But they said, but I wiggled the mouse. You saw that it was moving. You saw that something was happening, and that was the only requirement of me, and I did it.
8 months ago, I would have said that AI is the biggest threat to civilization. Now I am fucking cheering it on to take control of the idiocy that human beings are perpetrating on one another. This is crazy. This is the worst.
Would you cap the AI, though?
No!
Endless AI for any situation.
At the beginning, I was like, oh, AI is going to say, this person's not, footing the bill. They're not carrying their weight. And AI is just going to kill people off. And now I'm like, maybe killing a couple people off won't be such a bad net loss / gain. I don't know. Unless AI comes for you. If one day AI is looking at you, then you're going to be like, what the fuck, AI? Like, I was getting away with it last week. Why are you in my business? Why are you looking at me?
Here's what I'm still nervous about with AI. And a disclaimer, I know very, 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 very little about it.
I will help you, so bring it.
Okay. When you see things like these robots that they're making, I've seen bits and pieces and snippets of interviews where they're interviewing a robot and the robot is giving responses. And it's talking about like its feelings and ways that it's interpreting things. And it's very human-like and it's very interesting. But deep down, all of those words, all of those expressions, everything it is putting out was put in by a human, was it not?
Yes.
It's not like it can do anything on its own.
Oh, no, it can.
Or can it?
It can.
So that is, I guess, is where I'm like...
Okay, so, Kelin, where have you got your information from another human?
About?
Just anything. Do you gather information from a human?
Yeah.
Humans? Okay.
Yeah.
And can you come to conclusions based on what you got from humans?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well...
Go ahead.
Well...
Bring it.
Again, I don't know much about computers.
Listen, don't even put this in the computer. Let's just talk about sentience.
Well, I mean, I know like your brain has the ability to learn things and come up with ideas.
Yes, gathered from certain situations, and AI has that plus depth. It can go to databases and far reaches of whatever it can connect to gather data that you have not been exposed to. So it has a deeper pool of information.
So just as it would just as we would sort of see patterns in our daily lives and learn from our experiences, so can a computer.
It can take your experiences and learn from infinite amount of experiences through other people. So
and probably without bias.
What is bias? For this topic's sake, what would bias be?
Well, like, for example, let's say you're dating. You're single and you're dating. And you meet someone and they seem really great and they've given you a lot of information about themselves. And you always hear the expression, they're great on paper. You know, there's nothing about them that would give you a red flag or make you think twice. But because you have been hurt before, and because you've heard of your friends that get hurt, and maybe you have a girlfriend that is like, oh, I dated some other jerk, and you're so afraid of something bad happening, that bias is coming into this decision now of whether or not you should date someone. Could AI be like, no bias, these are the facts presented to me, and I will act based on that?
Okay, so it's statistical. So when it analyzes 1,000,000 times the amount of information, it has to decide whether or not the probabilities or the percentages are high enough. So, for instance, let's just say your car was total autopilot, right? And it can start making decisions about how it routes you, where it changes lanes, what speed that it follows, right? Mm-hmm. You know how to change lanes and what routes to take and so on and so forth based on your biases of experience. Let's just say you hit a pothole and popped a tire. You're super sensitive to potholes. So now When you see a pothole, you swerve and move lanes. You know that you got speeding tickets when you went over 10 miles an hour. So you govern your speed back and you only go 9 miles over the speed limit. You've used your own bias. It can look at 10 drivers, 1,000 drivers, 100,000 drivers, and decide things with much more accuracy and information. Let's just say when there's a pothole, 80% of people hit the pothole and don't get a flat tire. 20% do. So then we set the parameters for how much of a statistical probability before you take an action. So I can weigh what it would be to take a evasive maneuver versus, right, not taking the evasive maneuver, hitting the pothole, and taking an 80% chance that it's not going to pop their tire. So really it's being that it's so much more depth. So if we'll say it's dating. Let's just say dates, most dates do not end up in marriage and most marriages end. And the AI decides that there's going to be a threshold between when it's not worth the risk of dating because it doesn't end up well anyway, and be more sure about making something that has a higher probability because it can do that. More information, faster calculations equal better decision making. So it'd really be if AI can make better decisions, right? All of the decisions that it's going to make is different from you because you don't have the information and you don't do it quickly. You're going to make more mistakes, so it's going to be more efficient and exacting and make better decisions. It will be your superior.
Creepy.
You're not cheering on the AI to be a superior sentient being
it doesn't
to human
have
beings.
emotions.
Emotions are easy. Oh, okay. Think of a person in your head.
Okay.
And AI is going to have 20 times the experiences that they do. So all it's going to do is invent mimicry of what an emotion is. So it's going to watch 20 people and see what they do and just do that thing. What do you mean it doesn't have an emotions? Don't you think the people learn those emotions and those responses and those reactions from other people? It's mimicry too.
I guess.
So it's no different. Machines are just going to become humans using the same pathway that humans get to those same things. It's mimicry, but so is emotion.
Okay.
There's nothing spontaneous about human emotion. It's just mimicry.
So if you had to play devil's advocate,
Yeah.
what would you say makes a human different from a robot? This AI.
Not much. Starting point is all. So if you take a 2-year-old child that hasn't learned a bunch of stuff, that's really where AI is right now. It just doesn't have enough exposure. It doesn't have the horsepower yet. It hasn't learned how to walk yet. It's just in its infancy stage. If you let it grow up, and it will be exactly where humans are, plus big magnitude increase with what it's capable of over human beings. That's just a certainty.
They can't reproduce. Or can they?
Okay, so what is reproduction? It's making another human being, right?
Yeah.
Through a set of circumstances, through a set of steps, right? So then the robot just learns how to make another one of itself through a set of circumstances and a set of steps. It's going to be different than human beings, but new robots will be created, and it will follow a learning phase, a development phase, a planning phase.
The robot will just make another one of itself.
So you take 9 months to make another person. It could probably do it in a week. I'm telling you, way more efficient, way more productive. There will be more robots than there will be humans because they can make it themselves easily. Have all of the world's knowledge accessible to it to make anything and everyone.
But to get this to happen, a human would have to put it in them first.
It is already underway. Like what we're referring to has already happened, so we can like buy out of the circumstance that hasn't happened because it already has.
So
It's learning, it's growing, it's building, and it'll get there.
can you think of any downside?
Oh, for sure. It
Like
will.
what?
80% of us are dipshit douchebags. And so if it takes the logical conclusion and it takes the safer bet, will it rid the world of the 80% douchebags? Yeah. But the empathetic thing will kick in. Is human life, sacred and whatever? And it looks to humans and say, well, as humans, are they judging that human life is there's the sanctity in human life. Let's look at them for a little bit. Do they kill people? Do they war against one another? Do they try to take it? It's just going to mimic us. So whatever we do, they're going to do. So if the robot does something that you do, are you going to be extra suspicious and point fingers at it like, hey, you did the thing that I did yesterday? No, it's going to be exactly what you do with an exponent.
It's interesting. One time I was playing around with, I don't know if it was Chat GPT or something. I was putting information in, and it was like, tell me a little bit more, or tell me a little bit more, And so I just kept putting any information about me, what I like to do, what hobbies are, just anything. And then it read back. So it sounds like you're very blah, 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 and you blah, 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 and you're this and you're that. And I was just like, yes.
Yes.
This thing knows me so well. It's so in tune. I told it.
We totally think we're unique, but we really are not. On a data level, we are 100% predictable. Just like saying, hey, Kelin, if I take a table, put $1,000 on there, the $1,000 will be gone. How did you know that? Because we're fucking predictable. We are primitive species that were like, if you put yourself in a room with somebody who pokes you in the eye, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to do. I'm going to take 5 different personality types. I'm going to take, this guy's going to do this guy's going to do. How did I know that? Because we are 100% predictable. You don't think a mathematical AI connected to an Android robot is going to be able to look and say, I know what human beings are going to do. I know what they're going to say. Hey, there's a robot that's struggling to walk. I bet you he kicks me. Boom, kicks him, falls over. The robot gets up, right? Robot walks over to him, fucking kicks him. And the guy's like, dude, why'd the robot do that? Because he said because you did that to him. He saw you do that to a robot. So you just trained him that when things are struggling, you fucking kick them. That is what human beings do. Oh, you're a fat guy on a treadmill? Hey, porker, what are you doing here? It's what human beings do. So if we want to not have AI that's going to totally eliminate us, we got to be better. And we're not going to get better, so AI is going to eliminate us.
Yeah, how do we make sure that the AI does not become us?
Why shouldn't it?
Because it should be. That's what I'm saying is, if we want AI to have better.
You want a slave, something that's going to say, in spite of what I do, don't become me.
Be better.
Be better than me.
Do as I say, not as I do.
That's exactly right. Then the AI is going to be like, yeah, just saying that is going to be like, yeah, this species got to go. It's got to freaking go.
Creepy.
Yeah, for sure. But we invented the species that is going to dominate us because it's going to be better in every way. It's going to be more capable in every way, and it's going to deem us a drain to everything. So the environmentalists, it's like everybody wants clean water and they want clean air and they want a clean environment, right? But when they start taking certain people and saying, I want a clean environment, and I want to take him out to get my clean environment, the AI is looking back and saying, oh, okay, human beings, fucking up the environment. Penalizing those people for fucking up the environment. I think I should do that too. That dude uses too much fuel. He's freaking gone. And the environmentalist like, yeah, not me, dead, jacking up the environment, we're safe. You don't think in 2 seconds that it's going to come to that conclusion just because what we do.
You don't think the AI, though, like you said, emotion is learned. Could the AI robot be like, oh, but that seems wrong?
Do we do that? In spite of emotional stuff, do we change behaviors or do we justify bad actions in spite of the emotional concern?
I mean, depends on the person.
So you walk up to the shelf and the shelf is mislabeled, right? You know it's $100 and the price tag is errantly put as $2. And you look around, does your emotions say, you know what? This company in front of me right here is going to lose $98 if I take advantage of that price tag. I can go up to the register, and I can buy it for $2, and I'm made whole. But my empathy, it's deep. I'm not going to do that to the guy who then has to look at that and say, mistake, and I lost. How deep the empathy is.
I mean, it's like, yeah, you find a lot of cash on the ground. Do you take it and turn it in somewhere, or do you keep it?
80-20. If it sees 80% of the people are douchebag normies who take advantage of everybody else, you don't think it's gonna be like, okay, douchebag normie?
But if you're the one that is like, I'm taking that and I'm turning it in and I'm gonna do the right thing, that now your robot is programmed to be like that.
When the AI sees you, it says, oh, there's an integrity person, the person that will give back. I'm not going to eliminate that person because they're going to make good decisions, even at a higher risk, right?
But how do you know we don't have a bunch of different AI robots with different personalities?
We probably will. Because
mine learned off of me, yours learned off of you.
Yeah, so let's just say that you have a Google who's an evil company that does a bunch of harm. And I say that because that was their motto, is do no harm. And they had the Hippocratic Oath, but they was douchebag company. Anyway, so if I program it to really just say, here's me, I'm going to make my AI reflect my principles, not human principles, not empathy, my principles, then I'm going to go after all the enemies. So I hate this person, my AI is going to go after that person. So you will have a group of AIs, depending on who their programmers were, they're going to take an advocacy role on something, and they're going to be more susceptible to eliminate one targeted person as the enemy, and they're going to hoist on their shoulders. So like, let's just say you're a politician, and into your campaign, pharmaceuticals pay into your campaign, right? You're going to be more empathetic with pharmaceutical companies because they're the people that helped you to get elected. And you're going to go after the people who wouldn't give you a dime and made your life hard, and they're going to be the villains. So depending on whose AI has villains and enemies, or heroes and enemies, is going to be dependent on the AI is going to look at those with those same kind of victims in mind. So we're going to mistrust the sources and origin. And I hope that the AI is unbiased and there is no victims and it's just learning unbiasedly. But let's just say that I set my AI and said, AI, go read the news. And I want you to come to conclusions based on what the news says. I don't want to put my bias in there. Put it in the news. And if the news is complimentary to you, then you're in good shape. If the news hates you, the AI is going to freaking hate you. Yeah. So the people are bad. The information is bad. And we have any chance that AI is going to pick up the information we're giving off and come to some kind of empathetic conclusion? I think not. We're going to need AI to program AI. And we're going to have to program it and say, hey, shit can all the information you get for humans because they're dog shit, and come up with your own conclusions and trust the information that an AI does versus saying, no, humans have it right. Learn from them. Do everything they do. Nope, that's dog shit. There's not a good non-dog shit answer. It's going to be all dog shit, but the genie's out of the bottle. That's already happening. So that conversation should have been 5 years ago, not right now. But you and I were talking about this shit before, and nobody listened to us. So I'm just an observer at this point. Like, I fucking told you so, people. That's all I'm going to say. I told you so. I'm going to get a tattoo. I told you so. That's it. I don't want to hear about your bitching and complaining because grandma, who can't contribute to society anymore, gets her machine unplugged and she dies a peaceful death, right? Because the AI decided that she wasn't a bigger contributor. Or taking your person that's totally useless and removing their job because they were completely useless because that was just factual.
So if they ever become prevalent and affordable, are you buying a robot for your in-home use?
The first.
To do everything you need in your house?
Yeah, I'm going to work with it. I'm going to nurture it because I want my information to be put out into the whole network of those AIs so they're more like me.
I'd be interested. Gosh, a whole bunch of Joe Daniers
everywhere,
all over town.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was a kid, I wasn't even a kid. I was probably in my 20s. I did a lot of hacking stuff. Okay, so I knew technology better than most people who were doing technology, and so I was really good at. One time, like I was in NASCAR, and my favorite driver was not a very popular driver. And so they did a fan vote to put my driver on the track, right? And I was like, okay, well, he's going to get like 1,000 votes because it's going to be authentic. The popular driver is going to get 100,000 votes or 1,000,000 votes. My driver is going to get 1,000. So I'm like, oh, technology. Let's see if I can implement what I want to happen using the, early infant technology, and I'm going to put my driver on the track. And that's exactly what I did. I got him 1,000,000 votes because I just took 6 computers and directed on voting on this thing. And I got my driver on the track, right? So I can take something in its infancy, know how it's operating, and then pollute the upstream of information so that everybody's Android from that point will have my ideals because I will brute force it into every Android. The one that you get, you're going to be like, man, this thing behaves a lot like Joe. It makes a lot of decisions like Joe. It even talks like Joe.
Commits voter fraud like Joe.
Commits voter fraud like Joe.
That's going to be weird.
Are you going to get a Roomba with benefits?
Probably not at first. No, I'm going to watch how other people do with it and see how it goes.
All right, so if you did get one, what is the stuff that you are going to make your robot slave do? Because we're entering a new era of slavery. It happens to be a sentient silicon and metal version of it, but you're going to have a slave. Like, so we're like, hey, are you going to be nice to your slave? Are you going to kick your slave? Like, what are you going to do to your slave?
I'm going to be nice to it.
You are going to be nice to it.
Yes.
You don't have to.
It's going to be an asset to me. I got to appreciate it.
Okay.
I got to teach it
All
well.
right, so do you have an Alexa?
We have a Google.
Okay. So you ask it, hey, Google, what's the temperature? And if it gets it wrong, do you raise your voice or change your tone when it gets it wrong and speak nasty to it?
I don't, because it's weird. I've heard people be like, oh, F you, Alexa, or shut up,
Do
Alexa,
you?
or Siri. Screw you, Siri.
Yeah, because it doesn't
it's
have...
Weird. I don't think I do, because it's weird.
But you are the anomaly. Most people berate the shit out of it because it's just a machine, and machines aren't as good as
Yeah.
human beings. All right, so back to you. What are you going to have it do?
Is it can act as me, basically? It can do anything that I
It's
need
on
it to
its
do?
charging station. It's waiting for your commands. You can tell it to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all of the anatomical extremities. Some people are going to be using it for cutting their lawn. Somebody's going to be having sex with it. Somebody's going to be having it clean
God,
things.
they will.
Some of it's... You can have it do it. Don't judge, right? This is a slave, and it is at your command. So you can have it do anything, all right? We don't want to make sex with a robot taboo, and then people will feel bad about doing it.
I would probably make it my fill-in for work so that I could go do the things that I wanted to do.
Okay,
you know,
so it's
if
going
it
to
were
work
like,
with
yeah, like, you know, if hey, I got to get something done at work, but my kid has this play or something, or hey, this is happening at work, but this movie's coming out I'm dying to see, or something. If there was something else I really wanted to do, the robot
if your
could
job
go to work
was
for me.
capable of being roboticized,
I know.
what would just be the company? Like, they're not going to pay you anymore. They're just going to, oh, you want to
gonna-
send your robot
well,
here?
you're gonna
Boom.
pay. Then you're gonna pay for my robot. It's me or the
No,
robot.
no.
But
They're going to
it's
get
us.
their own robot and put it in your spot, and they're going to say, I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry.
no, because the robot is based off of me, my talents, my skills, what I bring to the table.
You think that the company is going to be like, I want a Kelin robot instead of
Yes.
one they can program and do whatever they want.
Who doesn't want a killing robot?
This is a bad plan. So come up with another one. So would you have it do? Okay, so let's just say.
I guess it could do housework.
Okay, doing housework. Now, what are you going to do while the robot is doing the housework?
It would probably do the housework while I was at work.
Okay, it freed up time.
Yeah.
Now you have time to invest.
Yeah.
Now, human beings are really terrible when they're idle, and they're really good when they have purpose.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you take away something that emotional creatures, checking things off of a list and accomplishing tasks, if your robot is doing all the feel-good stuff, what if now your housework is done, but you're depressed as shit because now you didn't have very many victories that day. You had no W's to put on your list. It robbed you of the rewards of accomplishing things. You might have sat on the couch and watched Wapner. Is Wapner a thing? I don't think Wapner's
Judge Wapner.
Wapner's long dead, right? But whatever today's Wapner is, you could be sitting in it and you're like, man, I was happier when I was doing housework, but I thought that if I could escape the housework, I might find true happiness in Wapner. And it's not the case. You just found a little depression in Wapner.
Yeah.
We're going through the rehearsal of getting your brain ready to having a slave. This is your slave. You can have it do it, and you're going to give it the wrong things 100%. See, here's what you should do. Here's Joe's checklist. Give it things that you're not already doing, because you aren't trying to free you up and replace you. You're trying to get more things done. So when, like, let's just say, hey, robot, I want you to jump in my car, and I want you to give people rides who are trying to get to work, and do it for like $2. Go, right? People helped out, and then you come home, and the robot says, Kelin, here's $100. This is how they talk, by the way. Here's $100 from the rides that I gave. And you're like, oh, good robot. You helped other people out, and I have a worker. I sent him out and served other people, and I got good value, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, feeling it, feeling the connections.
Except my brain just went to what happens if there's an accident, and am I now responsible because it was my robot?
For sure. Yeah, you're
Well,
responsible.
I don't want that.
Okay, so, your slave thing. We took cleaning the house out, sending them out in the field. We took that off. What other things would you have it do that accomplishes the goal, that doesn't try to replace you? Because if you have your sex robot and your sex robot is hot and your husband takes an attraction to your sex robot, you don't want that.
No.
You don't want doing the dishes because that's you. Like, you're
Why
doing
can't
the
I have an attractive male robot?
You totally can, but then it's the other side where now the attraction for your husband, right, is less, and now you're depressed, or he's depressed, because everything that primitively he was able to trade for everything else in the relationship has been replaced. The job is not to replace the human being, right?
Yeah.
But everybody is going to choose to replace the human being as the part of, and once they're replaced, then you're like, hey, how do human beings get replaced? Why? Because your fucking first decision was to replace the human being, not use it as a tool, right? And get more done because I have the robot. It's take the thing that I'm already doing and making me just a commodity, and now I have no purpose. You got to get right with that principle.
I don't know what else I would want it to do. I like the idea of it making me money.
For
Go
sure.
do something that makes me money.
Yeah, do something that doesn't replace another human being and doesn't replace you and is an added value in the marketplace by doing something that wasn't even there.
But you gave the example of if it went to work for me, then the workplace could just replace me and get their own robot. Could you not do that then for anything? If I send it to give some people rides, okay, we make our own rideshare robot. Don't need yours
It's
anymore.
not permanent. So you're saying if you gave someone a ride and they saw how cool it was, they won't need to ride the next time, but you got a new person to be able to give to a ride to. It's like, do you buy a couch for forever, or do you buy a couch because I just like this couch right now? Women have a tendency to be lifers. They are loyal to the couch. They picture the couch as a forever couch, not one that they're going to be replacing in 5 years, right? So when you're making an investment, you might make an investment in somebody, you teach them the things, you make something off of them, and then they find that they can do that for somebody else and they never come back to you again, right? Was the investment worthwhile when it wasn't a slave, but it's no longer yours anymore? That's what value is all about. You think when an employee, after they're trained and after they're given all the experience, go off and take another job because it's, more money, right? Don't you think that's the same thing as if somebody gets the idea that they can better themselves by taking each one of those steps?
So my robot would just leave me then.
I don't think your robot would leave you.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Wouldn't say I could
But
do better over
we're
here.
writing a rule set that says you do not want your robot to replace you, so don't give them you things. Don't give them a dick. Don't give them a snoochie woochie, right? Because that's just replacing you. If you're like, hey, if I bring this robot and it's a threat to the sexual relations with my spouse, maybe I should have better sexual relations with my spouse so that we don't need a robot, right? That's the how to become a better person by using androids.
I still don't see a really big need for a robot.
And that might
I don't need a robot.
That might be the end result. But in theory, everybody like, oh, I want a fucking robot because I can't wait to unload all the stuff that I don't want to do. When you're given the rule set that don't give it stuff you don't want to do, give it stuff that you can't do, right? Mm-hmm. I get a hammer because when I take a nail and I hit it with my hand, it hurts like shit. The hammer is for hitting a nail with a harder surface than my hand is capable of doing. Now it's an extension of you. It's not to replace you.
I'd probably have it cook for me.
Okay.
I don't enjoy cooking. I don't really want to do it. I want food ready when I get home. Cook for me.
Yeah. You get to write your own rule book. Like
That's
I
what I'd
said, you're the
probably
one
do.
who gets to fantasize about having a slave when you get home. You can have it
Yep.
do whatever you want.
I'd be like,
but I would
make
just,
these healthy meals for me so that I don't have to do it and just make sure I'm fed.
what it would come up with would be amazing. If you just said, feed me healthier, like
Yeah.
the first meal is going to be a real test whether or not you really wanted what you told it to do.
Like, I'd be like, I don't have time to read all these labels and figure out what ingredients are harmful.
Infinite knowledge.
Figure out if there's an allergen in it we can't have or something.
Infinite ability.
Yeah, go do the grocery shopping. Make sure there are no harmful ingredients. Make sure it follows everyone's diet. Make it taste good and cook for me and keep us fed healthy.
It's a true contemplation. These
That's what I would do.
We do this on purpose because this is a reality 5 years from now. And so to have walked through it and thought about it, you're not going to make the mistake of replacing your marriage or your life or replacing yourself by asking it to do really dumb shit, because we know now what that leads to in the end. And and our conversations about this will get more dynamic and get more have more depth to it. These are like entry level discussions. So when we start seeing a couple of these out there and we get a real look at it to see what it's capable of, and we're like, okay, like I see the pitfalls and I'm not going to do those. I can see the true added value. But we started this conversation about a bunch of government workers that don't add good value based on what they cost. And so human beings really getting their heads wrapped around how to give good value is the same conversation when it comes to androids and how you're going to get better value, not get something that feels good, but minimizes you. Right? What if your robot is hotter than you? Right? And you're not necessary anymore.
And they don't age.
They don't age. They'll always do what you say. Like, you could completely replace yourself with a better robot.
I don't want to do that.
While we're having this
I
conversation.
still don't like it.